Yeah, oh, man, this is nutty. Okay, let's do this thing. So that yoke of the neck on the top vertebrae right here, right? So in fact, it's kind of like a ball that sits behind your neck in that crevice, right here, and that's the knot of the ankh. And to open that, to release that, is to breathe through all five portals. Okay, so if you look at that symbol of the pentagram, and like the occult man with his feet on the two lower parts of the star and his hands on that part of the star, right, and his head on it.
Yep.
It's so when we actually have our awareness inside the body and we're feeling things, you can't release those things when your awareness is within them, because you're always bringing energy back in. What you need to do is go deep within them and then breathe with a yang breath. A yang breath meaning that you actually, when you're breathing, you're feeling like everything within, right, all the way to that center cord. And the yang breath is actually imagining the full circle around you and pushing out into it, pressurizing and expanding out into the bubble. Okay, that's like the yang breath. And after you do this for a while, you actually like pull in so much vril. You pull in so much of that subtle energy, right? Your field's kind of shimmering almost, because you just keep. It's like the, but like really long and drawn out. And then you switch your awareness to the edges of the ball. Okay, and when you're at the edges of the ball, it's like Aleister Crowley in the Book of the Law. It says you will never know like the source, the inside, but you will know the edges. So when you go to the edges and you actually imagine like an ether stream flowing around you, right? And when you start breathing, you imagine that cloak is wrapping around, and in fact, you're pulling it into you, and like the ocean out here is sucking everything out. Okay, so like that's the image. Is like after you pressurize everything, you start breathing the yin breath, going to the edges, and then breathing in the streams around, like far around you, right, and letting go into the ocean. So that brings us to the deepest mystery out here, and that is the crucifixion. Behold the hand and the nail. So Jesus got so where they put the nails in, when they nailed him to the cross or the tree or whatever, they put it through his wrist, and his right wrist first. Okay, and in the Bible it says it like a million times, like he held the right hand of God or the left hand of God, and like Judah, right? The tribe of Judah's the east. It's the right hand. And like even Hermes talks about this shit. And so I was always like curious about this, and I've been putting it together lately. And that is that the right hand is the electric. The left hand is the yin, right? And the electric is the outward pulse. So just like you were talking, how to release this knot, the yoke of thy neck, that knot right there, you actually have to pull it away with your shoulders, like push it down your shoulders, right? Well, in fact, what you got to do is breathe it out of your hand. Is to feel it and push it out of your wrist. Okay, this is crazy. So when you actually tap into this and you're breathing through your wrist and your ankles, well, like in reflexology, we know that our fingertips are intimately connected to our pituitary and pineal gland, right? The toes, same thing. So if you want to activate the highest centers of the whole thing, you actually must breathe through the furthest, like the most micro parts, the fingertips, where all the portals are, baby, all the spirals are, right? So like, yeah, so breathing through the wrists and the ankles, and then we get into fucking the true placement of the chakras, and that actually the base chakra is like mid calf. It's above your ankles, right? And the wrist chakra is so like we have chakras, in all the fingertips and truly every joint. There's like a little like chakra, but there's main chakras that actually pull and push through the rest. It's kind of like we have all these like forks in our blood vessels and our veins that flow everywhere, but the heart pumps all of them, right? So all the chakras in the hand, in fact, open when you open the wrist, because it connects the chakras in the hand to that within the body. The wrist is like the ceiling point. Okay, it's the same with the ankles. So when you tap into, so you're breathing in here and you're feeling, right? And then while you're feeling there, you start actually breathing around and pushing it out with a yang breath, right? Pressurizing and pulling it around, right? And then when you get to the yin breath, you're actually going out to your wrists and allowing your awareness is actually like out, like on your wrists and further out. And you're allowing everything that you were just breathing really hard and like feeling really, really, you're literally allowing it to change, to become formless, to your entire body will like transform. It's crazy, man. It's like your skin starts crawling and things start shifting, and you have to completely let go of the identity and association with the human body, because truly when you release that spot on your neck, your body will shift in such ways that if you are identified with it at all, it'll stop. This is the death of Christ, right? To be resurrected is when you completely identify with that of the etheric or spiritual body and cast off the garments of darkness. Like Hermes said, when man can be so firm in his belief, when he knows of his like true form, right? He can cast off those ugly robes he wears, and he can cast off that. You actually have to let it die, because it transforms in such a way that if you are connected to it at all, like it stops the process. So it's all in that yin breath, dude, and pulling out through your hands. Like it's pulling through your feet and your hands and just allowing the whole thing to flow. It's nutty. But yeah, that's like essentially the download.
That makes so much sense, because literally last night, I've been doing this for a while, concentrating the energy on my spine in that particular spot, moving it up. At first, I was always dealing with the lower spot, kind of by the solar plexus, where basically your root connects to the solar plexus. Then you have the middle section that goes up to the neck, the yoke of the neck, like you were talking about. And I've been concentrating on that section for so long that I feel like last night I was getting to a place where the energy was so intense that it was forcing me to sit in this like most erect position that I've ever sat in, where I felt like my head was moving, like my whole spine was elongating to like in such an intense to such like intensity that I literally felt like if this like point were to like align instantaneously, that I would like the energy would be immense. Like I felt like it would explode my brain. But then
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I shifted my breath. And moved it outward, and I felt all this intensity dissipate, and I felt the energy expand like out of my whole entire being, and to the point where it was exactly like what you were talking about, like where I felt like I could have totally disassociated from this body and become like entirely energetic, and I like stopped. I revered back to it, but then I would do it again. I know
exactly that point, man.
Concentrate the energy so intensely.
Yes.
And then I would like change my breath suddenly,
yes.
and then all of a sudden,
dude, you're on it, bro. You're fucking on it. Out. I know exactly what you're, bro. I've hit that point like 100 times, and like every time you get closer, you get a little further. But like truly, it's like just like Rudolf Steiner talks about, like in the Christ impulse, it is truly the developing of the higher etheric senses, right? The etheric body, and this gives you knowledge, and actually, in fact, brings your etheric body into form, into substance. This is creating like the immortal robes, right? And as you give birth to the senses, right? But ultimately, the transition from Jesus to Christ, from Jesus the Nazarene to Jesus Christ, he was talking about this in one of these series of lectures, happened when he what was I just gonna say? Jesus to Christ. Oh, when he overcame the five physical senses and completely identified with that of the higher worlds, because he had God gnosis, right, as Hermes likes to say. He didn't. It went from a belief to strong faith, that to seeing and feeling through an energetic body, to the complete affirmation and materialization of that body, complete knowledge of the spiritual self, complete knowledge, right? And that's when you can overcome the five physical senses and cast off this robe, and that is truly the death and resurrection of Christ, is when he just identified with that. And that point, it's so hard to cross. But the other thing, just based off what you just said, the other key that I had for you was essentially what you're talking about with that rigid position and like just intense energies like flowing around your spine and whatnot. The key, when you get really tight, so as you progress and get further and further and deeper into energy work, as you know now, is like you get in positions where you've been working on things for a long time, and like it's like, whoa, there's so much pressure, right? There's so much pressure in like different spots of your body, and like the energy is intense. You're feeling literal waves rising like outside of you, right? The key is truly a complete switch, an inverse of perception, meaning that instead of breathing and like feeling that which is moving and like that which is off, it's to invert it. It's to, okay, you see your spine as literally a formless rod that's like shifting, it's goo, right? And it's vibrating, it's waving, like you're like, imagine like waves, and like just your spine is like just an open portal, a pathway that's jelly, right? And everything else is hard. Anything you don't feel is in fact the darkness, or like the very dense things, right? And everything you do feel is in fact that which is already breaking up. It's catharsis. So our aura is in fact dark completely. Okay, everything we can feel, we think all these different feelings are like, oh, I'm blocked up here. No, it's like everything else is blocked up. That's barely getting better. It is the inverse of perception here. And truly, just like I said with the yang breath, to fill up everything, your entire bubble, the entire aura, right? And then see that and let the spine do whatever it does. Feel everything else, but let the spine straighten, right? So it is essentially to feel the crookedness, embrace the crookedness everywhere. Feel as much as you can with a complete disassociation with the central line down your body, and letting that do whatever it wants. So like that inverse of perception is a key. It's a major key. Until you open up the straight and narrow. So the straight and narrow,
that makes so much sense, because I've heard the conscious mind being like, when thoughts come into the conscious mind, it's as waves breaking out of the ocean of the unconscious, or the subconscious. And that the waves breaking is like a loosening of that density. And so when you actually start to feel into your pain or your sickness, you have the realization of what is happening internally or externally, and you have the actual mental capabilities now to perceive it and to feel it, it means that it's breaking out of the subconscious, of the unconscious, into the conscious mind.
Yeah.
And therefore it's like it's like losing its density in a way.
Yes.
It's sort of becoming vapor that your mind can now perceive.
Yeah.
So that, like, dude, that makes tons of sense. Have you ever stood like have you ever just stood up and held your arms in a T and done energy work that way? Where you're literally mirroring.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have you seen the Hanged Man in the tarot cards? The tarot cards of the Hanged Man?
Yeah, of course.
So the Hanged Man is spread out, in arms out, right leg crossed across the knee. That is a key.
Yep.
Like the Hanged Man is the key. That position, that erect position, in fact, upside down, hanging from your foot, is the exact position that the energy can That's the position of full like activation, because just based off
Are you saying hanging by your ankle?
yeah, it's the hanged man where your knees cross, but that position with your arms out. Okay, this is the other key I was going to get into with you, and that is the two pillars. Okay, the pillars and the symbol of the sun are the master keys. They're the keys to the kingdom. Okay, it's the symbol of the sun, the ring, right? The ring with the dot in the center. That ring with the dot in the center, that dot in the center is is your solar plexus, right in the center of your back, right? That's the dot in the center. And the ring is the edges of the aura and perception. The second symbol that is imposed over that is the two rods, okay? These two rods rise from the ground, right behind your ankles. They kiss the back of your legs. You can feel the flat spot on your hip. They kiss right there. They also kiss the back of your shoulders, right on the edge of the shoulder blades, right? And then they rise up. They actually don't touch the ear. They're a little bit away from it, but they rise up to about 6 inches above your head, okay? And you know the tree of life, the two outside pillars, right? The positive and the negative. So these pillars, yeah, this is the key of keys. This is another key of keys right here. After you're breathing in the sun position, like as the sun, right, and you're really feeling everything, once everything gets really tight, once like you got, okay, there's a bunch of fucking railer energy just everywhere, it's like a multiple part meditation, because you establish it and then you go deeper. But to establish this is truly to start breathing through these tubes and imagining water just pouring down two tubes, like rushing both ways, right? And it just kisses your back, right? And it's to breathe into the body and allow all things to get sucked into these tubes, okay? Sucked into the tubes, just like you were talking about, how you actually have to pull the blockage apart, right? With your shoulders to allow the,
Yep.
Okay, see your spine in the middle. Your spine in the middle, right? And then the two poles outside of it, just like the Egyptian sculpture where Isis and Osiris were holding baby Horus, okay? And baby Horus was in between them, and he was half their size. Why half their size? Because it's the size of your spine between the two poles, right? And you allow all things to get pulled into the two poles so something new can give birth in the middle way. The straight and narrow, in fact, must be opened. It's sealed because these two can't flow through each other right now. So it is to activate and allow all things to get pulled apart into these two rods. That's like the first step, the first meditation.
You're literally hitting on like, I feel like this is like the key of keys.
This is
into one.
This is straight up the key of keys. The second meditation. Hold on.
Yeah.
So like after you do that for a while, whenever you're doing energy work, after you do it for like 15, 20 minutes, your mind actually is creating new blockages, or like it's shutting things off. If you just stand up and go do something, go drink some water, go walk around for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you lay back down and go straight into it. Just flip the switch, right? And right away, without feeling anything or going into any sensation, you literally identify and breathe as the rods only. As these two pipes, they are your lungs. That is you. I am those rods. The body, allow it to become formless. Allow it, like literally, it is to, okay, breathe expansively, breathe fully, right? And like feel, but be so disattached from everything you're feeling, and just breathe as those two pumps, these two rods, these two pulls, right, that are flowing unfettered, completely, like nothing could stop them, right? And breathe everything into them instantly. It's crazy when you do this, because like in part one, in the beginning meditation, essentially when we're breathing and we're feeling everything and we're going into sensations, our awareness is being scattered throughout this whole field. Okay. When you go do something, it all comes back into your mind. Okay. But your energy is still very supple. It's very moldable right then. Okay. and like you're very tapped in. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can get up for a few minutes, you lay back down, and bang, it hit. Like that's when the big things are released. Always. I don't know if it's for you too.
For sure.
Yeah, but when you do that, it is to completely go right away. I am the rods. Right. Everything else I feel must be allowed to change. Right. Breathe through the pulls and pull everything into them. So those pulls, what happens is, so our energy is not ordered. It's not formed correctly, right? So that the ether can't pump through us because we're not ordered. We're not in balance. What happens though when you completely identify with two extremes, the two poles, right? Imperfection, Isis and Osiris, the moon and the sun, these two poles that just kiss the outsides of your back, what happens is literally instantly all this like scattered energy into perfect harmony. Okay. And what happens when that happens is the middle pathway opens up because there's no longer any strain from either side acting on it to create a pocket, a cave in, right? So like if we had this little tube, right, and any pressure anywhere blocks it up, any pressure anywhere blocks us up, and this middle tube is right down our spine. What we must do is establish two polar points on either side, right, and allow all things to flow both ways in between, so that there's zero pressure, zero tension, zero resistance, head to toe down that spine, right? And Horus is born there. Yeah.
Dude, that's, I mean, just talking about the two poles trips me out because this came to me in a vision through a energy work meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I was always, this was like months ago, I was always just focused on on my spine and like trying to move the energy directly up the spine.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like, I had this vision of, like, my spine moving into two and actually, like, moving out, like, around my shoulders. And I started to breathe up those two.
Yes.
And literally, like, I felt the energy move. And I actually felt, like, myself become centered. I felt myself become centered. My mind
when you
became
split.
centered. My thoughts became centered.
I know exactly what you're
talking about. My
body
became centered. And it was like, it was this moving apart and moving into those two poles that allowed that to happen in a lot of ways.
Dude, that's...
And like, I like
that's
to,
it.
Dude, this is so important, by the way, like what you're sharing, because I'm about to go into 10 days of just energy work all day, every single day. I'm doing the 10-day silent meditation.
Oh, bro.
And so it's going to be...
One thing that you also reminded me of, this one's really quick, but you were talking about the three rods or the three chambers in the pyramid of Egypt, right? And so if there's three chambers, that means there's 2 points of severance, right? 2 points of severance. I wish I could share my screen, but whatever. So hold on, let me get the image up. Just so. Okay, so there's 2 points of severance. Those severance points, like you said, are right middle, top of the shoulders. The other one is right at the top of your sacrum, right at the bulge, right above your butt. Okay. And so those are the two gaps. It's actually where the energy twists. Okay. The energy twists. So it comes up both legs and it twists through the hips, right? And then it rises right outside the body, kind of. And then it twists. It comes back through like the armpit area and it twists up through the neck one more time. And then it enters into the third eye. So twist here, twist here. To open up those twists, those are the two fetters. The third fetter is right in your solar plexus, right in the center of the back. But to open up the hips and the shoulders is just like you said, to feel your shoulder blades, right? So when you can do this, this is a major key. Connect your right hip up to your right shoulder blade. Connect your left hip up to your left shoulder blade, right? And breathe just outside your body through those pulls. Because when I'm telling you, the right side of the neck, the whole right arm and shoulder blade release simultaneously with the right hip. It's simultaneous. It's simultaneous with the left side too.
It's 100% it's 100% connected, and it's the left side of the brain too. Also connected with the left shoulder, also connected with the left hip. I felt it kind of where my third eye comes through the back of my head. There is this like also a twist and tension in the energy
right here.
there,
Right here.
which I can show it
Yep.
right? right there,
that's exactly
right
it.
at the right at the shoulder, the left shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and then right at the left hip. And so when I first had like my awakening, you call it, like, spiritual awakening, one of the first things that happened to me was my hips twisted.
Yes.
Like I got actually like quit my job and started traveling. When I was on the road, my hips twisted, and
Yes.
I actually like they were completely sideways, and my chest was completely in a different direction. And this like shifting, it was a mass. I think it was just too much. My body was just facing too much energy and too much resistance all at the same time. And so my hips shifted, and but it's been that particular injury, that hip shifting, that has actually stimulated all of my energy work and has moved myself so deep into my body from that moment that it's been the process of untangling that, and that has led to all of these discoveries.
Yes.
Which leads me to ask you about like,
the right hip, real quick though. The right hip is when you open up your right hip, everything else will open up simultaneously in rapid action. It's Jacob in the Bible when he goes and wrestles with God. This is like Genesis 23:32. Jacob is wrestling with God, right? And just a little bit after that, it talks about Jacob must stab himself up through like the right thigh and into the stomach, or something like this. And then like he goes and dies for a little bit. It's some crazy story, but like it stood out to me because the right hip is so the right side is actually on the hip area is where the energy flows up. So it must rise before it comes down. The right hip is the entrance, right? But to open up the right hip, you actually have to use the left side to balance it out, and like everything else. But the right hip opens up first. And then the second thing I was going to say is we talked about those two poles, and that right behind your head, you can feel that bump, and you can feel that bump right in the same spot on your lower back. And like, yeah, you can align. It's really good to connect your shoulder to your hip because those two heal together. But I need to send you this image of Thoth standing with two snakes that wrap around him, and these snakes cross his hips, right? They cross in the center of his lower back, and then they wrap around and cross right in the center of the stomach in the front, and then they wrap around one more time and cross right here in the back. Okay, and then they're looking back on him. So essentially, they crossed in front of our hips, in the center of our lower back, in the front of our chest, and then right in the back right here. And those are all the points of extreme tension. Those are all the crosses in the energy. So to align those, it is a two-part process. The first one is finding those poles and allowing everything to become ordered. The second one is breathing through the pathways. This is like the even more subtle, because to find those true pathways, like literally the true pipes of energy, to feel those and find those, you must already have like felt that order, right? It's very subtle pathways, but those plus. So yeah, it's weird because all of a sudden your right hip becomes connected to the back of your left shoulder, right? And this gets into the yin and yang. If you superimpose the yin and yang,
I'm literally like, I'm literally feeling those channels right now.
Yep.
Like as you're describing this, the energy crosses the middle.
The very last thing I want to say right there, right there is that, so like to open up your hip, it's many different types of meditations, because it's essentially like just like in Hinduism, you must chant all 10 names of the Vishnu avatar or whatever, right? Or like all 10 mantras in Buddhism. That's just kind of like 10 different pathways which you must call into being, 10 different meditations, right? To open up the area, right? So it's like, oh, you got to do this one with this symbol, and then this one with this symbol, and then this breath work with this symbol. And also Miguel Serrano talks about this as the Hyperborean runes being the keys that only the most adept initiates will ever like receive. They only give the runes and the breath work to the most adept initiates, because I think it's the process. Like I'm not sure. I'm just kind of discovering this now. It is the process and like order of different meditations with different symbolism, right? to impose that onto the body, let the energy flow through those pathways, and then change it up, and then change it up, and then change it up to fully unlock the area. It's like a multi-part key. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Dude, I feel that for sure. For some reason, like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but a lot of this has been coming to me intuitively, and then I'll watch a video and they're like, the exact thing that I like.
Yes.
To me, like, and it's like subtle imagery. It's like I understand why or how they create these symbols now.
Yes.
So feel it. The symbols are the actual feeling. The symbols are the actual experience.
You make my heart smile.
And yeah, dude, the symbol is the experience.
This is how we started talking,
for so
yo.
Long,
that's how we started talking.
Yeah, dude.
I told you to breathe through the symbols.
100%.
Now you, dude, you got the gnosis. That's what esoteric gnosis truly is not to like learn and remember and understand symbolism. It is the ability to literally create the symbol, because when you can create the symbol, you know the symbol.
But that's the thing. That's the magic about the time we're in right now, is that these symbols were only symbols for so long, passed out to hold the sacred knowledge, but the reality of actually being able to feel these was reserved during you and everybody during the shifts. Now that we're physicality again, basically this information is available. The deepest layers of understanding, the deepest levels of light are now coming through in a way that it's like you can find this within yourself in a way that I don't think has been that hasn't been available in
I know
many,
that
many years.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And like most people think this shit's like so arcane and like, but I'm just thinking, like, you just got me thinking. If someone like had some experience with meditation, they were into the, you know, the alchemy for a little while and whatnot, like they were basic initiation kind of level. If we just sat down with them and we all just meditated on a certain symbol and told them to breathe through that, it literally would only take like a day for them to fully like grasp it. Like literally the doors are open to everyone right now. Anybody. Like we get it's so simple. Like and you know, everyone out here, these spiritual teachers be like, oh, meditate on that symbol, meditate on that dream or whatever. The key is to breathe through it, is literally to invoke it in your field, and then you know it. Like that's the key. It is it all has to do with breathing.
The breath is the
yes.
The breath is the paintbrush.
Dude, there you go.
The breath is the paintbrush.
The breath and the awareness is like kind of like it's like this. It's the cookie cutter. The awareness, you create the form with the imagination and you breathe life into it. And then bang, it comes to life. And that's the gnosis, because you experience it. Like that's the experience of higher wisdom, of higher knowledge. Like that is gnosis. It's intellectual intuition. That's what Buddha called it, intellectual intuition. Hermes called it gnosis.
Damn, dude. Hell yeah.
That's just crazy to me, dude. I'm blown away on so many levels. Yeah. That's funny that came up just like that. Hell yeah.
Dude, one thing I do have to say, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I can't not do the energy work now.
Yeah.
It's like,
if
I don't do the energy work, the knot becomes so just like debilitating. It's like calling to me to work on it in a way that's like I can't ignore it.
I know exactly.
I want to know what your thoughts are on that. Like, what is this? I was thinking about this the other day. It's like I felt like this is what they're talking about when they talk about the Tao, and they relate the Tao to the flowing river. It's like when you let go, the river is going to continue to move and pull you, and you'll reach an obstacle, and if like you are, it's like I can't not. I don't know how to describe it, man.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yo, like my friends, my family, no one understands when like I'm just breathing. Like I'm obviously aware and like awake, but I can't respond to them. like no one can understand this. And it's like, yo, I'm literally like untying this super delicate knot with my mind.
Yes.
How do you explain that, right? And like, yeah, what you were just talking about right there is like I've been going through that for like 6 months to a year now, very like intensely, where it's like, yeah, you can ignore it, but like, yo, if you ignore it and you can go do something and take your mind off it, you stop feeling it, right? You drain your energy so quick when this happens. All of a sudden, your body will feel so worn out all of a sudden, right? And it's because you're not honoring and use like, and this is I've been like putting it together that why this is happening is in fact that's just like moments when more cosmic waves are bombarding you. So when the energy increases out here, it's going to cause more change and like festering and like bullshit to happen inside of you. So if the energy is high out here and you're feeling like mad things going on inside of you, you got to honor it or else it's going to wear out your body really quickly. Like really quickly. Super fast.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, and I can feel that, man. Like, I already feel like that's why I needed to get out, because I was feeling these waves of energy over this last weekend, and, you know, I was just like in the city with my sister, and obviously she wants to go out to dinner and she wants to go to the bar, and I'm like honoring the family space, but man, I look at myself in the mirror this morning. I was like, dude, I feel like I look like I'm dying.
Yes.
Like, I need to like get out. I need to just like sit in some trees.
Yeah, that's straight up my battle right there. What you're talking about, like if it's a heavy day, like I say this shit all the time, like yo, just like a really intense, energetic day, like I'll be laying on the ground breathing for 3, 4, 5 hours, like that's just like that's normal. It's weird shit.
Totally, dude. Man, I feel that 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm pumped to like be moving my life more in a direction where I can honor
it.
Because
it honestly doesn't. It doesn't even come up.
About, like,
it wouldn't even come up if you
purpose,
couldn't. Like you leaving and having time to honor that is actually why it's like getting more intense.
So like people like talk about their purpose and like work. Wait.
Yep.
Yo, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man, I feel like this is my purpose right now. Like
there you go.
Like 100%. Like I don't know what is going to come out of that, but there is nothing else I can do. Like, yeah, I've been making some videos, and yeah, I've been like writing and doing these other things, but the energy work is my purpose. Like 100% feel that in my core.
You're straight up describing my war.
Movement.
You're straight up describing my war.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm doing it and when I'm in it, like it feels so right. I should dedicate my entire day and life to this, right? But then a week later, like you're running out of money. You got 20 emails and all these messages on Facebook. You got to make some videos and like you got to go like do some work, and then like it's like fuck, and then like you just get so mad at yourself because like that's obviously not what I'm supposed to be fucking doing. Like it's creating all this bullshit, but it's like that's the war. That is truly the war right now. It's been my war for like months.
That is the war. Yep. Yeah, man, we're close to solving that though, dude. I feel it. We're getting there.
All the way, dude.
It's getting closer for sure. When are you heading to Boulder?
I just recorded that whole call